The movie began with a clinical space which was clean but unsettling, like a laboratory that was creating a sense of mystery and dread. Small, unusual lizards moved across the cold floor. They were not ordinary lizards, but appear altered or mutated. Then a man's body was visible, lying still. A pool of dark blood, spreading beneath him, was establishing a sense of danger and violence. Suddenly a doctor appeared, his eyes wide with terror. He spoke, his voice trembling. He rushed towards a bed. The girl So-yeon was lying on the bed. He spoke to her, his voice strained, saying he was trying to save her. Abruptly, a loud, insistent banging of doors echoed. He grabbed a syringe and began filling it with a liquid, his hands shaking. The door burst open, and a girl's voice pierced the air, yelling the doctor's name, Gisu. Men with guns entered the room. The girl pleaded with Gisu, the doctor, to leave So-yeon alone, revealing So-yeon as she was his daughter. Gisu, however, his eyes wild, insisted he had the vaccine, that he could keep her alive. The girl and the armed men tried to stop Gisu from injecting So-yeon. Gisu, ignoring them, plunged the syringe into her arm. A gunshot rang out, the bullet hitting Gisu's arm. Simultaneously, a deep rumbling began, the sound of an earthquake. The room shook violently. Through the window, buildings were visible, crumbling and collapsing amidst the chaos. Gisu, despite his injury, remained fixated on So-yeon, attempting to administer the remaining vaccine. The next scene opened with a wide shot of complete destruction. Debris littered the ground, broken pieces of buildings and cars were everywhere. Then a boy Ji-won appeared, holding a bow and arrow. He looked worried. He spotted a stray cat, momentarily relaxing, but his relief was short-lived. But then a large crocodile suddenly appeared. Fear gripped him. He lit his arrow with fire and shot at the crocodile, yelling, "Die, die, die!" The crocodile was still alive and attacked. The boy jumped into a nearby wrecked car and shut the door, but the crocodile broke through the window. Suddenly, a second man, Nam-san, arrived. He was very powerful as he grabbed the crocodile and, with a powerful swing of his sword, tore off its head. He then called out to the shaken Ji-won. He chuckled and told the boy he had killed the crocodile and instructed him to pack it up, saying he'd make a barbecue. A young woman, Sona, sat at a makeshift table, intently painting. Suddenly, an elderly woman, Sona's grandmother, entered the frame. She carried a container, presumably holding water, suggesting the difficulty of obtaining basic necessities in this world. Sona strained the water. Then a next scene opened with a wide shot of the chaotic, devastated world. People moved hurriedly, their expressions reflecting the hardship of their existence. Suddenly, Nam-san and Ji-won's voices cut through the chaos. They organized a line, establishing a system of exchange. The scene emphasized the importance of bartering in this resource-scarce environment. The scene began with Sona and her grandmother approaching Nam-san and Ji-won. Ji-won greeted them warmly, his tone cheerful and friendly, inquiring about the grandmother's health. Sona also greeted them, showing respect and concern, especially towards Nam-san. Sona then presented Nam-san with a painting, a gesture of appreciation or friendship. Their departure was abruptly interrupted by the arrival of a group of menacing goons. One of the goons approached Sona and her grandmother, harassing them. When the goon grabbed Sona by her hair, Ji-won snapped, attacking the goon. The other goons quickly retaliated, beating Ji-won. A fight erupted between Nam-san and the goons. A woman, introduced as a teacher, stepped forward. She greeted Nam-san and explained that they were part of an organization conducting a campaign in Seoul, prioritizing the safety of families with children under 20. Sona inquired why they had been brought along. The teacher explained that they offered a safe haven with clean water and ample food. Grandmother, upon hearing about clean water, expressed disbelief and longing. Ji-won, his voice tinged with sadness, urged Sona to go, acknowledging she deserved a better life. He gave her his hat as a parting gift. Sona, in turn, asked Nam-san to visit them. The teacher then told the group to move on. The scene transitioned to Sona, her grandmother, the teacher, and the group walking through a dark field. Sona, sketching, was approached by a girl named Ju-ye, who was also 18. Then in the next scene, Nam-san and Ji-won were standing together. Ji-won asked Nam-san if Sona had arrived safely, expressing his unhappiness without her. Nam-san reassured him they would see her soon. The scene then shifted to Sona and her grandmother's group. The grandmother, exhausted, stopped walking and groaned in pain. The teacher suggested taking the grandmother and another elderly man to a medical center. She introduced Mr. Hao, Choi, and Mr. Oh, who would care for them. Sona, deeply saddened, left her grandmother behind. A short distance ahead, they saw a line of cars with bright headlights. The teacher announced they would now travel by car. Sona, suspicious, asked why they hadn't used the cars to transport her grandmother. A soldier arrived, his tone aggressive and taunting, saying they would wait for the grandmother. Sona, noticing a strange wound on the soldier's neck, grew increasingly uneasy. Meanwhile, Mr. Oh and Mr. Choi led the grandmother and the elderly man away, claiming to take them to the medical center. However, they soon stopped, revealing there was no medical center. When the old man questioned this, Mr. Oh pushed him into a ditch. Then, Mr. Choi brutally killed the grandmother with a knife. At that moment, Namsan and Jiwon, who were hunting nearby, arrived. Jiwon, seeing his grandmother killed, yelled in anguish and attacked Mr. Choi. Namsan joined the fight. They discovered a horrifying truth. Their enemies were seemingly immortal. Jiwon was shocked and terrified by this unnatural resilience. As Mr. Choi attacked Jiwon again, a girl suddenly appeared and killed him. Namsan, yelling Jiwon's name, looked at the girl and asked who she was. She remained silent and threw a sword, killing another man who was about to attack Namsan from behind. The next scene begins with Sona and the other survivors arriving at the apartment complex in the vehicles. The teacher, speaking through a microphone, announces their arrival, prompting everyone to gather their belongings. Namsan questions her motives, asking why she sought them out. She reveals she needs their help. The girl begins her story. She introduces herself as Lee Yun-ho, a former Air Force sergeant. She recounts the day of the earthquake, explaining how her unit, from the helicopter, witnessed the devastation. They noticed one building, the apartment complex, that remained intact. When they discovered an aquifer there, they collaborated with survivors to make the building habitable. Then, Dr. Yang Gisu arrived. They believed he, as a doctor, could help. However, his true nature was revealed as he conducted horrific experiments on people. When she confronted him about missing children, Dr. Yang revealed his own unnatural survival, claiming he lived for months under the debris without food or water. He then demonstrated his power by surviving a gunshot. Lee Yun-ho, horrified, accused him of creating monsters. A fight ensued, and she narrowly escaped. She relays this information to Namsan and Jiwon. The scene shifts to the apartment complex, where the new arrivals are greeted with applause. Dr. Yang Gisu addresses the crowd, promising them a better life with clean water and resources. Sona enters her assigned room, amazed by its comfort and the running clean water. Lee Yun-ho then reappears, informing Namsan and Jiwon that Dr. Yang has gathered many teenagers, including Sona, for his experiments. She then begins to outline a plan to infiltrate and take over the apartment. Then scene shifts to the apartment. Sona, walking outside, greets a soldier and inquires about her grandmother. The teacher arrives, falsely reassuring Sona that her grandmother is on her way. The teacher takes Sona and Juye to a classroom and introduces them to the other students. Sona notices strange wounds on everyone's necks and begins sketching her grandmother. She announces that Dr. Yang Gisu will be visiting the class. Soldiers distribute water bottles and food to the children. Sona, suspicious, observes the water bottle carefully and calls Juye's attention to it. Dr. Yang Gisu arrives, and the students applaud. Juye expresses interest in assisting Dr. Yang Gisu's research, and he invites her to his lab. The next scene opened with a soldier preparing a vaccine, questioning Dr. Gisu about the frequency of injections and expressing concern for the missing Mr. Oh and Mr. Choi. Dr. Gisu dismissed his concerns, stating they would be fine without the dose. Sona abruptly woke and left her bed. Namsan, Jiwon, and Lee Yun-ho were shown in a van. Sona, in Dr. Gisu's lab, discovered his disturbing experiments in a booklet. She found Juye on a bed, and Dr. Gisu arrived, bringing Juye's parents. He attempted to reassure them, but then revealed Juye's partially detached body, with her heart still beating. Her parents reacted in horror, and as they tried to wake her, she vomited chemicals and died. Dr. Gisu then killed Juye's father, and a soldier shot her mother. Sona was shown bound to a bed in Dr. Gisu's lab, breathing anxiously. Dr. Gisu prepared to experiment on her, marking her neck. Namsan, Jiwon, and Lee Eun-ho arrived at the apartment complex. Namsan attacked, and they stormed the building, engaging in a fierce gunfight. Dr. Gisu, informed of the attack, ordered his people to hold them off. He then activated a machine, causing Sona to scream in pain. Lee Eun-ho, Jiwon, and Namsan entered the basement, encountering mutated humans who attacked them. They fought back, killing the creatures. Dr. Gisu announced an alert, demanding surrender. Namsan destroyed the speaker. Jiwon found the teacher, demanding to know where Sona was. Dr. Gisu, holding his daughter's head, spoke to it, seemingly insane. Sona questioned his belief in saving her. Dr. Gisu threatened to cut out her tongue, but then groaned in pain, realizing she hadn't drunk the contaminated water. He became enraged. Jiwon and the teacher arrived. Jiwon aimed a gun at Dr. Gisu, who held a knife to Sona's throat. Jiwon dropped the gun and a soldier attacked him. Dr. Gisu ordered his daughter's head to be packed up. Dr. Gisu, the teacher, and a soldier attempted to escape, but Namsan arrived and fired at them. Dr. Gisu detonated a bomb, causing a large explosion, rendering Jiwon and Sona unconscious. Dr. Gisu was then confronted by the parents of the children he had experimented on. They attacked him. He fired his gun, accidentally shooting the suitcase containing his daughter's head. The water from the suitcase spilled out, and her heart stopped beating. Dr. Gisu cried out in despair. Sona, Lee Eun-ho, and Jiwon arrived. Sona told Dr. Gisu he had never saved anyone, including his daughter. Enraged, he tried to kill them, but Namsan shot him dead. People emerged from the building. Namsan showed affection for Sona, and he, Jiwon, and Lee Eun-ho shook hands. Rain began to fall, and everyone rejoiced. The final scene showed Namsan and Jiwon bringing Sona to her grandmother's grave. Sona cried. They then distributed pig meat to people, including the woman who had offered jewelry earlier. Sona and Jiwon teased Namsan about her, and the movie ended with laughter.